Hi there and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and horse racing broadcaster and journalist Paul Alster, and we're here to bring you our day one preview of next week's Royal Ascot Festival. Paul, how are you feeling? Royal Ascot is I think honestly one of my favourite racing festivals, if you want to call it that. It doesn't need festival at the end, does it? It's just Royal Ascot, but it's one of my favourites. What about you?
It has to be because the quality's there, isn't it? You get the best of the best, and how could you not, put it right up there towards the top of the tree? And when you add everything else in with the atmosphere and all the style and all the celebs and everything else, but the main thing is the horses, and we've got 5 fantastic days awaiting us.
Some really incredible quality racing, that's for sure. We kick things off on the Tuesday, obviously that's day one, and we're going to preview a few of the kind of key big races over the big days, starting with the Queen Anne Stakes. Top of the market here, you've got Rosalien. You've got a little bit of a rematch on the cards from one of the races the other day, but you've got Rosalien at the top of market, Dancing Gemini, lead artist, notable speech, Sardinian Warrior. One of the ones that I keep an eye out for, Lake Forest, Diego Velasquez, Factor Cheval, Docklands, Kudwa, and sort of bigger the rest there, sort of heading into 25 to 1 from there. I'm sure that's where you'll probably pick one from. Obviously, unfortunately, Paul, Porta Fortuna's out of this one, which is a bit of a shame because she's such a star, but a fantastic field nonetheless.
Yeah.
This is run over a mile on the straight. A few of these sort of stepping up in trip a little bit actually. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is always the traditional curtain opener, named after Queen Anne, who founded Ascot Racecourse over 300 years ago. And this is the race where we often see some of the big stars taking each other on because we've got the older horses going over the straight mile. And, the market's put Rosaline in as favourite. I must make it clear that we're looking at this a week before the start of Royal Ascot. So we haven't got the final declarations, but we kind of think we know more or less who's going to run, barring injuries or setbacks. Rosaline probably needed the run when it was third to lead artist, didn't it, at
Yeah.
Newbury in the Lockinge. Dancing Gemini, who was second, Rosaline third. They're going to meet again, and that's going to be a fascinating clash. I think the market's expecting Rosaline to have come on quite a lot for that first run, whereas both Dancing Gemini and Lead Artist had had previous starts. Remember, the fourth place horse that day was Notable Speech as well, and he could very easily run too. And
Yeah.
last season, Rosaline and Notable Speech had some real head-to-heads, as we remember in the Guineas.
Yeah. I thought that Lockinge was such an exciting race because obviously you
Yeah,
had lead artist and Gemini that Dancing Gemini took each other on, and then you had Notable Speech and Rosalien sort of coming out of the pack looking like they were going to go and sort of have their fight, and both of them, Charlie Appleby and Richard Hannon, both said basically you wait until the Queen Anne and it's game on. So there's been a lot of fighting
yeah.
talk around this race. I think it's really, really exciting. I can't wait to see those top first four home in the Lockinge again, fighting it out. I do agree with the market on this occasion. I think Rosalien should show a lot of improvement and get home. And I know how much the Hannon team, think of the horse. And I think personally, that's where I would stick. And if I was going to look elsewhere, I'd probably say I'd like Notable Speech because, again, Charlie Appleby said the same. He said that Notable Speech is going to show a lot of improvement for that run. So they're the two I think would likely, I think they'll likely finish ahead of Lead Artist and Dancing Gemini this time around.
Yeah, well, we've got 5 days to look at Royal Ascot between the two of us, but I think we're going to start off agreeing on something, which is
Hey.
probably a first. And I think what you say is absolutely spot on with regard to those two. But of course, there are other horses that may run. Sardinian Warrior is a very interesting horse who's been really progressive for the Gostons and was not beaten far at all in the Prix d'Ispahan in France. But you mentioned in your introduction one or two horses that also might well um, run. And one in particular, I think, could be the joker in the pack here, and this is Lake Forest
Yes.
for William Haggis, because this horse achieved the most remarkable win over at Rose Hill in Australia
Yeah.
in November, where he came from an impossible position. I mean, it was an extraordinary turn
Yeah.
of foot that Lake Forest produced to get up and beat a very good horse called Lazat. And that was over 7.5 furlongs. It hasn't done the mile, so people will look at that and see it's not a distance
Mm.
winner. But the way he came home suggested to me he will stay the mile. And William Haggis, so shrewd. I think if there's each way value in the race, certainly at the time we're looking at things, he's already been back from about 25 to 1, but there's still 14 to 1 available Lake Forest. And that probably will be my each way suggestion as an alternative to backing Rosella.
I actually had place money on Lake Forest last year at Royal Ascot when he was second in Inisherin. And then I thought, God, he's really running on there. And then I thought, do you know
Yeah.
what? He might just get the better of elite status. And I backed him again and he got another second. So I actually did back him that day at Rosehill because I was obsessed with this idea that I wanted him to go over 7 furlongs because of how well he'd been running on at the 6 furlong. So I would agree with you. It really wouldn't surprise me that he would come out and get the mile. He's had a pipe opener at Longchamp in May. This could be absolutely perfect for him. So I
I
think
think so.
I would say we are agreeing all around here,
It's
which is
frightening.
very
It's
unusual
frightening.
for us. How have we started off this?
Ju- I, I don't know, but just one more point about Lake Forest is that he's owned partly by Tony Bloom, who's incredibly successful. He's the owner of Energumeni. He's owned lots of great horses. He owned the horse that won the Triumph at 100 to 1. He also owns Brighton Football Club, and he's a serious gambler. And the fact that there's already been an early market move for Lake Forest suggests to me that they're hopeful of a good run. I expect Kieran Fallon to ride as well again, as he did in Australia.
Yeah, he had to give half of his money back for that, didn't he? Well, not half, but he got a pretty hefty fine for that ride
Yeah,
in Australia.
it was
Right.
worth it for him, actually.
I would say definitely so because that was excellent prize money. So now we've got the King Charles III Stakes next, Paul, or as many people know it, the King's Stand. Top of the market, you've got Believing, and then there's a few old names in here. One that I wasn't expecting to return, that many weren't expecting to return to Ascot because they said they didn't know whether she'd be back, but Asphora is listed here potentially to run. Looks likely because she has already landed in the UK. You've also got in here Regional, Magira, Starlust, Kind of Blue, Flora of Bermuda, and a few others as well. Still quite a hefty field here for this one, so it could cut up, but my eyes are firmly set on Asphora. Obviously, this distance in particular, I wouldn't prefer Believing. I'm actually a backer of Believing, back him every single time, but I'm actually siding with Asphora here. What about you?
As four has been there and done it, it's great that they're coming back for another crack at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a huge commitment, a massive journey to come all the way over from um, so far away. And the way it won last year, beating Regional, there's no reason if the ground's decent and we're expecting it to be good, maybe with a bit of good to firm in the description of the opening day, because in the week up to the opening day, we're only seeing one or two light showers in the 7 day forecast with the BBC weather. So Asphora is probably going to have its ground. And the only difference is that it had a prep run in Britain last year before it
Yes.
came to
Was it
Ascot.
at
It's not going to
Haydock?
have the prep run. It did. It came fourth at Haydock in the Group 2 there. But it did have a run out, I think it was in Australia, was it, in April, in the Robert Sangster Stakes. So I'm sure they'll have it as right as it can be. And I agree with you that Believing is probably better at the 6. There are lots of other interesting runners. Of course, Regional, who was second in the race last year, went on to win the Haydock Sprint Cup. That's one that is definitely worth a look. And Aidan O'Brien could well run a Whistle Jacket. I'm just looking to see if that's still in the... Yeah, it's still in the betting. If it comes here for this race, that would be interesting if he does run Whistlejacket, because he's also got the ex-Australian horse that there was a huge, big hoo-ha about before it made its debut at the Curragh 3 or 4 weeks ago, when it was sent off at 6-4 and came last of 9. But it probably needed the run to acclimatise. I don't think we should rule out Storm Boy. But my selection is going to be the horse I put up as one of my horses to follow, and that is Kind of Blue. Um, kind of Blue, probably better at 6 furlongs, but if it does turn up to try and do the double, then I would be very seriously interested in backing Kind of Blue, because it's got so much class and is a really fast horse. So that would be, I think, my idea at this stage of a horse of interest in the Old King Stand.
I think that there's also one in here, and he's got a couple of entries. So obviously, just mindful that we're recording this because we've got decks. One at a bigger price that takes my eye, who was second at Royal Ascot last year, is Tropical Storm. He was 66-1. Has also got an entry for the Commonwealth Cup over 6 furlongs on the Friday. So I guess it just depends whether they're going to go for the 5 or 6 furlongs. He's generally more successful over 5 furlongs, so I'd prefer him to stay in this at a big price. But he is a shorter price for the Commonwealth Cup, so the market seems to suggest he's going to go there. He's 25s for the Commonwealth Cup, but 66-1 for this race, considering he was a second at Royal Ascot last year. Reasonable form over that 5 furlongs. You've obviously got Andrew Baldwin's relatively in form at the moment. Could be quite nice. The only thing is Tropical Storm is usually ridden by Oisin Murphy, and one would assume he's going to ride Asphora.
I would have thought so. Just one other, just to throw into the mix before we move on, and that's the Irish horse Magnum Force, which, if it comes up on the quick side, is another one that could go really well. Remember, it won in America in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile over 5 furlongs on fast ground. So if the ground dries out, Magnum Force will be one to build into your calculations for this race.
And then right after the King's Stand, we jump into the St James's Palace Stakes. Another fantastic race. I mean, what a day for day one. And gosh, doesn't this one look a little bit of a rematch? In here currently, you've got top of the market, Field of Gold, Ruling Court, Henri Matisse, Cosmic Year, Shadow of Light, Opera Ballo, Hot as Hell, currently got an entry for the Lion in Winter, Jonquil, Rashabar, Camille Pissarro. I mean, it's like a who's who in racing, this lineup, isn't it? I mean, what a race currently, and I'd love to see so many of these turn up, and I really hope they do. Where does your eye go first?
Well, as you say, this is an absolute humdinger, isn't it? It's a terrific race, and I think where Field of Gold is going to run. I think they're intending to run. Ruling Court, of course, missed the Derby, so they've said they're going to run here.
Yep.
Henri Matisse, the French 2,000. So we've got the English, the French, the Irish 2,000 guineas with us, potentially, as well as a number of very good horses that were placed in those races, like Shadow of Light and Cosmic Year, and Hot as Hell was third in the Irish. John Keel was second in the French. I don't think the Lion in Winter will show up. I'd be very surprised at that.
No.
I think the way that Field of Gold won in Ireland, having appeared to be probably a little bit unlucky in the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket, it's going to be a hard horse to beat. And also, I would be reluctant to back Ruling Court, because they've trained it for the Derby. They've trained it to stretch out to go 1.5 miles. So they've obviously changed the routine, haven't they, Izzy, with this one? Instead of training it for the speed of 1 mile, they've been training it for 1.5 miles, and then suddenly to come back and train it to concentrate back on the mile. For me, that's not an easy thing to do. If they were to win with Ruling Court, it would be an astonishing piece of training by Charlie Appleby. And on that point alone, I'd be against it. I don't think we should underestimate Henri Matisse's achievement in France. That was also a very good run. And the one horse I put in at a price against the others, if there have been shocks in this race over the years, but Jesse Harrington's run at Hot as Hell has always been highly regarded. It won 4 of its 5 races last year. Its only defeat was at the Curragh when it was beaten a length by Henri Matisse in the Futurity. And it went on, of course, to beat Delacroix in the Futurity at Doncaster. And it needed it in the Irish Guineas when third to Field of Gold. It's got an each-way chance, I think, hot as hell, because I know Jesse Harrington has always rated the horse very, very highly. So that would be my each-way alternative to backing the favourite, Field of Gold.
Yeah, I mean, Field of Gold was arguably the best horse in that Guineas, wasn't he? So I think, yeah, in the Newmarket Guineas, the Guineas,
Yeah.
shall I say. So I do think, if he hadn't have hit the dip and perhaps would have been ridden a little closer, then he perhaps probably would have got the better of Ruling Court on the day there anyway. I think Shadow of Light kind of showed himself in that race to be very much a 7 furlong horse. He rode the races as a 7 furlong horse. He absolutely had an amazing burst of speed to kind of go almost from last to first, and then did just drop away in the final stages. So I wouldn't be certain of him then stepping back up to the mile. One that I mentioned before when we were looking at the race between Field of Gold and Cosmic Year last time at the Curragh, I still did feel that obviously, even though I know Field of Gold was very, very impressive at the Curragh, I did feel Cosmic Year ran his race and ran a good race. I just don't think any of them have shown that they potentially, even though Ruling Court beat Field of Gold, I think it was very marginal. I just think that Field of Gold probably will win this. I think you can, like you say, perhaps try and go in for an each way, or potentially even just looking at, here I go thinking that I'm Kevin Blake, looking at some sort of combination tri-cast with the Guineas winners or something like that could be the way to go. But yeah, I can't quite see past Field of Gold.
No, I agree with you. I think Field of Gold got a bit of a superstar aura about him, even though he was beaten at Newmarket, and he's got a point to prove here. Of course, the racing around a bend here is to the straight races at the Curragh and at Newmarket, but if he doesn't get into any trouble in the race, if he gets a clear run, I'd expect him to win. So I'm not normally one to go with favourites particularly, but if you had one to have your life running for you, it'd probably be Field of Gold at Royal Ascot this year.
Yeah, I just find it really, really hard to oppose him. I'm the same as you. Even with such a fantastic lineup in here, I am just concerned that I feel the writing's on the wall a little bit with Field of Gold. I feel like he's going to stamp his dominance on this card. But that is all we have time for our day one preview. So join us again for day 2.